he was asked, Orlovsky, about why Justin Fields seems to be dropping in the draft. Now, I don't know. I mean, there's some people that think San Francisco might take him 3. I mean, who knows? But there is some speculation, that he will drop. I mean, Zach Wilson supposedly is going to go 2nd, of course, after Trevor Lawrence. Now people are thinking Mac Jones could go 3. So it seems like Fields, in many people's estimation, is dropping. And Orlovsky was asked why. Now, I will say this. He caught a lot of flack. He did say, this is what people are telling me. I'm not saying this. These are not my thoughts. This is what people are telling me. And he proceeded to go ahead and talk about what I think it was just 2 people, but a few people in decision-making capacities throughout the NFL are telling him about Fields and why he may be dropping. Here's what he said.
I have heard that he is a last guy in, first guy out type of quarterback, like not the maniacal work ethic. I've even heard it compared to Justin Herbert, where it was like, dude, when Justin Herbert showed up, it was like a psychopath when it came to working to get ready for the draft or even at school. Like, give me more. I want to work nonstop. And I've heard that there are some questions with Justin Fields' work ethic.
All right, and then he caught flack, and many accused him, white and black, of playing into the racial stereotype that, as you know, Rob, that's been said about not only a lot of black athletes, but blacks, period. That we're lazy, we don't work hard.
I have a story for you when you
even
ready.
Athletes, okay, even athletes that is, just natural ability, born to play, born to dunk, you don't have to work hard. Things like that. So after we hear his second thing, you can share your story. But he came back the next day, Orlovsky, talked to some more people at Ohio State who actually knew Fields, and here's what he said.
I have heard those things from teams, and they might feel that way. And this is also a season where teams are trying to say things to potentially get a guy to drop to them. And so I've just wanted to clarify and put it out there that, like, listen, over the last 24 hours and more digging, that it seems or it sounds like Justin Fields' work ethic is fantastic. And that's coming from 2 people who have worked directly close to him.
Okay, there he is. We'll get into that. You have a story related to this.
Well, yeah, and the only reason, Chris, that I think Dan has to understand, and I'm not saying, Chris, he talked to his people who he feels confident in,
right?
But there's always been a undertone, I don't know if it's racist or whatever you want to call it, about black people being
racist.
lazy. Okay,
yeah,
I
say it's racist.
But okay, racist. Yeah. That black people are lazy and whatnot, and this has always been
even
like
though
a narrative.
We built the country.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and especially when you're giving like ball players a lot of money, black ball players. Oh, now they don't want to play, they're lazy, this and that. And the other thing, you remember J.R. Richards who pitched for the Astros.
Tremendous pitcher. Yeah.
Tremendous. He kept saying, I don't feel right. I remember this very vividly.
Oh, you're right. I remember that too. Yeah.
I don't feel right. Something's wrong. Oh, see, they gave him the big contract. Now he don't want to pitch, whatever. If I remember correctly, he had like a stroke, Chris. He had a stroke. And he was trying to tell people that he wasn't healthy, wasn't feeling right or whatever. But because he had signed this contract, he went out there because they were shaming him in that he had to play. Okay? But my story was I was a young reporter at the Daily News in my 20s. And somebody, I think it was a paper in Philadelphia, somebody called looking for me. I was doing colleges then, Chris. So people started calling for me. Like they knew I was there. I got called by the Miami Herald to go cover the Dolphins. And then I was called by this paper in Philadelphia. So the guy called our assistant sports editor, Chuck, and I'll never forget it because Chuck shared the story with me. And he said, Rob, I want you to know that the Philadelphia paper called whatever. I don't remember which one it was. And he said to me in asking about you, he said, yeah, but I've heard that he's lazy. And Chuck was furious at the guy and said, what? Where'd you get that from? Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, sir, that's what he said. In fact, not only is he working here full time, he's going to Columbia Journalism School full time. So whoever told you this guy is lazy, doesn't know Rob Parker at all. And that's the kind of stuff, Chris, that gets out there. And that's why Dan got the pushback, because it's character assassination if something like that is very, very, very harmful. And if you're going to go with that, even though it's coming from other people, Chris, and I get it, you've sourced other people, I've sourced other people, you know what I mean, and say, hey, this is what I'm hearing and that kind of stuff. But things like that, I can understand why people, because once that gets tagged to you, it can damage you. It could cost him millions of dollars as he drops in the draft. You know what I mean? It could have an effect. And even if there's no proof of it, it sticks with people. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he dropped. He was lazy. And now say he doesn't start off all right or playing well, right? It'll be like, well, he probably doesn't work hard, because that's what they said about him before they drafted him.
Right.
It's one of those things. It's a slippery slope. It really, really is. You know that, Chris, as a reporter.
Yeah. Look, I think, as you said, what Orlovsky did is not different from what a lot of people did. Right. When I was a reporter, I'm on TV, and people are asking, well, what are you hearing around the league? Now, you haven't talked to every GM in the league. You know, you may have talked to 4 or 5 GMs or executives from different teams, and you say, well, yeah, I'm hearing this or that. You know, so, and other reporters are doing that. He's done it before. The difference is this one was controversial. He should have checked, you know, when the next day after he got pushback, what'd he do? He called Ohio State and asked them, what's the deal with this? Is this true?
So maybe he should have called before he said that on television, right, Chris?
Exactly.
Like this is what I'm hearing, but I called Ohio State, and I couldn't get anybody to bite on that. I just couldn't. You know what I mean? And then that way you've covered yourself to say you've done your due diligence, Chris, and I just couldn't find anybody at Ohio State. Now, if he called Ohio State and they told him the same thing, Chris, his argument is even better. Am I right?
Absolutely. You're right. Like, why wouldn't you do that if you've got contacts there that obviously he was able to get to? So, yeah, absolutely, because it could either what you've heard or it, negates it. And that either way, you're in the clear. What I will say is this, too, and as you said, like, some of these stereotypes are just straight up racist. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Blacks are lazy, this and that. Like, those are racist. And they've
for my name to be attached with laziness, Chris.
Right. One thing you are not is lazy.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. I can vouch for that. And so those have been used to discriminate against African Americans since we've been in this land. I mean, it's just as simple as that. But I will say is this, Rob. If that is true about a black quarterback, black coach, whatever, I don't have a problem with a guy saying it. Like, you don't have to treat us with kid gloves. And I'm not saying this is true about, Justin Fields. I have no idea.
No, I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
no,
we're not asking
reproach.
to be treated with kid gloves. If he's lazy or if anyone's lazy, then you can say it. And that's all I'm saying, too, because obviously there's racism in the NFL. We talk about it with the coaches and in the front office. The only explanation, Rob, the only explanation for them to have so few black head coaches and front office executives is racism, pure and simple. You can couch it as nepotism and, the good old boy network. Yes, it's racism. But what I will say is this. I don't think now there's still a lingering effect of it. You don't see a ton of black backup quarterbacks. You see a few. But
the one guy we always point to who broke that mold was Charlie Batch in Pittsburgh. Remember, he was there for a long time. And this year you had Jameis Winston, although he was viewed as a future starter. Teddy Bridgewater kind of, sort of in New Orleans a year before. But so you have to still be really good. I guess you got RG3 too. But I think that you got to be careful in alleging racism with black quarterbacks today, because I think the doors have swung wide open, and obviously these teams just got to win.
And I think a lot of them don't care. Even if they may have some reservations inside, they got to take the best quarterback. And when you look at, there have been 4 African Americans drafted number 1, 3 of them, in the last 15 years. There 10 starting quarterbacks are African American now. I didn't even think when the Lamar Jackson stuff, Rob, and when he was in the draft and people were questioning, can he be a quarterback? I didn't think that was racist because I had questions as an African American. I was like, can he throw it well enough to be in the NFL?
Yeah,
and is he big enough to run that much? Now, he's proven that he is. But I'm just saying, is he big enough to run?
I had an issue with the general manager, Chris, the former general manager from the Colts.
Bill Polian,
who said what was it? He should take snaps as a receiver. You remember that?
Right.
I'd rather him go out to compete. This guy played at a high level in college. You know what I mean? Compete for the job, but telling him he should be go take snaps at wide receiver.
Did you think that was racist or racially?
I just don't think that they would. And I get it. It might be racially, but in a positive way that he's such an athlete, he could do anything. Where white guys they wouldn't say do that because they know they can't play receiver. But they have what I mean?
Remember Tebow? A lot of people were like, we should try him at a tight end or fullback. Eric Crouch, who was a great quarterback at Nebraska, he didn't get a look in the NFL as a quarterback. So to me, it was style. And like I said, I had those questions because he was such a runner that I was like, can he do that in the NFL? So that's why I didn't think it was racial. So look, there's certainly still racism and things, as we said, in the NFL, but I don't think I wouldn't just throw it out in general at a quarterback because he's black. Like Trey Lance is black. We're not hearing this about Trey Lance. So my general point is you don't have to treat us with kid gloves. We can take it, obviously. If a black player or quarterback is lazy and you know it and it's a fact, call it out. But you need to be certain when you say that. And Rob, conversely, if a white quarterback's lazy, say it. Because you rarely hear that about white quarterbacks.
Right. And that's the other part about it. You're right. That's the other part that you would like to it can't be one way or it can't be always the same narrative. And then the other guy's smart and, he might not have the skills, but he's smart. You know what I mean?
Right.
And all that. Those are like, what you call those words, Chris? Code words. Yes, code words.
Yes. We saw it recently. Beyond sports. Who was the guy? He shot some people recently, and the cops were saying he just had a bad day. It's like, hold up. What?
He had a bad day, right.
Right. Come on.
That was the guy who killed all the Asian people, Chris, in Atlanta.
Yes. They were saying he had come on.
He had a bad day means I spilled coffee on my leg.
Thank you. My goodness.